So one of the things that I took a very careful look at is if you look at all the code that we used to write, it was like every function is going to start with like borrow global or move from, and then like sometimes you have to like move to the resources you're going to play with back at the end, and then you do the actual like logic, the stuff that's like meaningful, that's interesting, and that would always happen in the middle of the function. So it seemed to me like what you really want is like you shouldn't have to write this bookkeeping that's sort of grabbing the stuff you want to touch out of the store and writing access control checks. Instead, like the runtime should do that for you, and you just write the function that takes the object as input, and you know it's already been authenticated, and then you have permission to use it, and then you just go from there. And so that's one of the big things from the move perspective, where the idea of the object-centric data model came from. It's just like, how do you eliminate indirection? How do you make the code as short as possible? How do you eliminate potential mistakes like forgetting access control checks or getting them wrong, and make as much of that as possible automatic so the programmer can just focus on the thing that's going to be really important to them. And then, of course, like from the system perspective, there are a lot of advantages of this too. Like with objects, they're a very fine-grained unit of separation, like compared to an account, where an account might have many different balances or resources or things inside of it. And so if you're trying to write really nice code that's really amenable to parallelism, you want to avoid having big chunks of state, and you want to have like lots of little pieces of state as much as you can, because then it makes it a lot easier to craft transactions that are touching disjoint pieces of state that can easily be parallelized. And so with Sui, like we of course we're thinking a lot about how do we do effective parallel execution, and not only like by spreading execution across cores, but also eventually spreading it across machines. And so with the object data model, something that we were going for is I want to know what state a transaction is going to touch before actually running that code, because that makes it easy to farm the execution out, not only across cores, but across multiple machines.